Hey everyone, I just want to talk about one of the worst scams that people keep consistently falling for. And no, it's not meme coins. I know Haktua coin launched 24 hours ago, but I mean, that was a blatant scam through and through. If you fell for that, you deserved it. But I'm talking about COD. It's not even a video game anymore. Like, it's basically just a giant slot machine. They don't want you to just play a game and have fun. And, the more fun you have, the more likely you are to spend money on the game. Because that's just not as profitable as you could by using a bunch of data and algorithms and basically setting it up in advance. So, you have the illusion of free will, but the game decides if you're going to have a good game or a bad game unless you like do something to completely throw it off, like basically just going AFK or some shit, pretty much just reverse boosting, which is what a bunch of people are doing just to get around this shitty like engagement optimized matchmaking. You either have to like pay someone to sell you like a setup account, or you have to sit there and run a couple of matches and not play the fucking video game. You just have to sit there and like watch or go AFK or some shit and use a bunch of VPNs if you want to ever get around this, cuz you have to like remove as much data from the system as possible so it'll throw you in an actual match so it can collect more data. You know what I mean? Basically like how a slot machine will, pay out every so often, have like set odds. Like they obviously can't just straight up rig it, but they can create the system around odds that are more in their favor and create how like the system reacts to the user. So it'll like, shove you and point you in that direction. And basically like the game decides when you're doing super good and when you're doing super bad. Like your general stats shouldn't really change. Like everything should be consistent across the board over the long run, unless you're doing like weird shit to mess with your stats and to mess with the data collection. And basically, if you have like a bunch of good games, the game will try to balance it out because it doesn't want you to have like a super high dopamine peak at once, and then relatively everything is just pissing you off and everything is boring because you're like, wow, I had like such a good lobby. I managed to find a bunch of shit players and basically I went like 45 and 5 and I destroyed everybody. And if you do that, you're more likely to play the game more. Like it's just human nature. If you're like doing really good, you're probably having a lot of fun because the game is designed around that and it rewards that, obviously. But they decided that if we can make every user be able to feel that experience of like just popping off, because like a lot of people, they don't have like crazy games up until recently, but when you have like shit like bot lobbies where you don't have to like have a loser to have a winner, you can basically just generate stats and put people in lobbies that are rigged or put them in lobbies against bots. Or you do the thing where it gives you a kill even if you do like half of the damage, like an assist. Basically, what used to be an assist just counts as a kill if you're playing a core game mode now. And you're just generating stats out of nowhere. So now every single player can have like a crazy fucking game and experience that ultra dopamine rush. And then they're gonna like keep you on the line and keep a carrot in front of you so you'll keep, pushing for that and coming back. And if the algorithm detects that you're, exhibiting behaviors that might reflect somebody who's not as engaged as the average user, then it'll start pumping it back up and giving you easier lobbies and all of that shit. And then you start winning too much and it's like, okay, we gotta, balance you out. You're gonna get stomped because then you're gonna be like, wow, why am I lacking all of a sudden? Let me try another one. I'm gonna really focus this time. And then you're more engaged with the game because there's these highs and these lows, instead of just hopping on and being like, wow, I keep getting in the lobby with these same people and they keep, destroying me. Or I keep getting in this lobby, like, there's not many players online, so it's just a bunch of noobs. And honestly, it's not even a challenge. Like, there's no competitive aspect anymore. Like, I can see why Treyarch would be like, well, yeah, maybe if everybody has a more, you know, varied experience. Sometimes you're doing super good, sometimes you're getting stomped by real players. They would actually like have an emotional investment into the game. But once you like realize and see through all of that, why the hell would you want to even play the game if like everything is just, made up and the stats don't even matter, so there's no competitive aspect and everything is all done by like a giant AI algorithm puppeteer behind the scenes. Like, why don't they use the data on the number of sales and the amount of profit it brought in, and there's stock prices from before and after, like releases such as Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 3, and shit like that? Why don't they just be like, wow, if we make good games, we make money, and people talk positively in the community, and then we don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars paying livings to multiple people to just run PR to play catch up and basically clean up after every release that they do, instead of just making sure it's fun and something that people would like and something that would be financially viable, instead of just how many dollars can we make with as little investment and as little effort as we can to please the investors as much, and all of the bad PR and the backlash and shit. Well, the team can deal with that next year. That just seems to be like the Call of Duty mentality. Like, it's like most of these developers aren't expecting that they're still going to be hired next year, so they're just trying to like please the investors as much as possible, and whatever happens happens. Even if you just sell a bunch of shit, basically scam people, who cares? Like, as long as the numbers are high enough this year. The report says to get the numbers up this much, so we did. That's gotta be like half of it. I don't believe that like these developers are that evil and shit. Like, some of them certainly are, like some of the people that are just there to focus on like financial reports and to get numbers up and shit. But a lot of these people, got into video game development because they like were growing up playing video games. It's not like people are just like, oh, I need a job. I guess I know a little coding. I'm gonna make the next Call of Duty. Like, some are, but like, you know, it takes a lot of effort and shit to like actually be a video game developer and to get at the level of a AAA company like Treyarch. Most of those people have a genuine passion for video games, but they're also, regular people who have bosses that have expectations, and, they're faceless giant corporations that need to just print and generate money year after year because for whatever reason, people still buy it year after year. The game literally gets worse most of the time, and it still makes more money than it costs to produce. And I mean, it's human nature. Like, why not try to make as much money as you can with as little effort as possible if it's still working? Like, I get it, it's human nature because they're mainly in the business of flipping investors' cash as quickly as possible, and they want the investors to keep coming back, and they want to like be like, yeah, we can do what we did last year and do it better and do it faster. Like, when you have these games that cost tens of millions of dollars to produce every year, but it's like it's the same game every year. It's like done with the same engine most of the time. Only every like half decade or so we get like a new engine and shit. And it's like no one's ever gonna notice if they take a couple $100,000 and buy a G Wagon or some shit and buy a mansion with it. And instead of like including content that we were just gonna include with the game, we like just piece it up and put these little bells and whistles inside of a battle pass or some shit. Like, just shit like icons, shit like weapon camos, player models that you would have normally got from unlocking and shit. Just why not throw it into a battle pass and charge it, and then we're just gonna generate, income. And basically, these studios are like, well, hold on a second. Our games are actually worth, so many millions of dollars. Why are we just selling it for 60 and then, going back on a game that we already released, making DLC for it, and only charging like $20 when we could charge like a $70 season pass? So you just have to buy two games basically. Hell, they don't even have to like make a lot of the shit for the games anymore. So that's like one less living that the studio has to pay to a coder or a graphic designer or some network security guy. Who gives a fuck, really? Like, I'm not even kidding. Their latest update for the Christmas shit, the zombies loading screen has 6 fingers on it and obvious AI artifacting and shit. It's like, even without the 6 fingers, you can look at it and know it's AI. It's not even like a good model that's like indistinguishable, like one you have to pay a corporate license for. It's like they just went to crayon.com or some shit and typed in a prompt. They're like, badass, cool Santa zombie. Just downloaded the first one and then put it up there. It's absurd. It's like $1 trillion company. Think about that. They're owned by Microsoft. And when they bought Activision, I was like, okay, well, I'm surprised Microsoft actually bought Activision, but I was like, hopefully they're like, okay, now that we've locked down this company and somehow didn't instantly get broken apart by like an antitrust thing, now that we have this in the bag, we're going to invest so much money, get back into the gaming space, become like a respected company again. And we're just going to pump money into this because it's Call of Duty. It's tried and true. We know it's all just going to come rolling back in as long as it's a decent product. But instead, they try to like nickel and dime everyone and, put in less work year after year, fire more people when they could have just like made probably like 5% less profit and secured, guaranteed free money for the next 100 years, literally, if they had the rights to Call of Duty and just made it consistently good. And I don't mean like every Call of Duty has to be like what I like, because I know a lot of people like different games. Like, some people hate Modern Warfare and shit. A lot of people played Infinite Warfare. Some people don't like the futuristic exo movement. Some people miss it. Shit like that. Like, not everyone is going to be the exact same, and not everyone's going to like always get good community like feedback. But I just mean like the quality in actually producing them and not doing shit like splitting up actual content that should just come in the game, especially when you're charging $10 more for a copy than you used to, charging a battle pass, requiring people to always be online, even if you're playing in the story mode or playing zombies, because they're like, oh wow, people might pirate the game and play one of the modes where 99% of people don't buy the game just for campaign or just to play zombies offline. Like, I'm sorry to say, but like everybody plays COD to play either multiplayer or at least play with friends or play zombies and be able to like, play zombies with the updates, because Jesus Christ, Treyarch and Activision just always drop the ball with new releases. It seems like the games never come out working. And I get like that the developers literally have a limited time and not every single bug can be fixed and addressed. But there's blatant shit that happens like just playing the game and so consistently, where it's like, how did no playtester ever tell anybody about this? Did they just want to go home and they were just like, yeah, everything was good with the game. Yeah, thank you and give me my money, Activision. Probably, to be honest. Doing shit like spawning and literally not being able to move. Like, you press W and you just die from some in a helicopter, or just someone sitting behind a fence, like right in front of your spawn, just shooting through the fence. Like, the game should never spawn you actively in someone's line of fire. Like, I get it, you can't, there's a limited number of spawns and shit. A lot of people on small maps, especially shit like Nuketown. It's like, I get it. Sometimes you have to get spawned when maybe an enemy is looking at you or some shit. But when they're aiming down sights and they're holding down the full auto and they're actively putting like a line of bullets right at the spawn and the game spawns you being shot at already, that's fucking insane. And then like every time you restart Black Ops 6 on PC, you have to redo all of your settings, including keybinds. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's not even just like, oh, the graphic settings are glitched or some shit. Like, the entire file for the first 2 months of Black Ops 6, for some reason, would just delete itself every time the game started. Your brightness, fucking gamma, your keybinds, every single slider, every single toggleable option was reset. Nothing was safe. So you have to basically set up the game for the first time every time. That happened for like a month and a half after the launch of Black Ops 6, which, how does nobody fix that during the beta, the alpha testing, the, in-house play testing? How does nobody get pissed off about that? Probably because people are, after the third time, are just like, oh my god, I'm not going to set up my settings again. I'm just going to go play something else. And then they just alt F4 out of the game and, actually don't tell Treyarch about it until like the game actually launched. And then, there was just so many people playing that eventually somebody noticed and was like, hey, what's going on here? But they would literally never do one thing for the benefit of the game or for the fun of the community unless they're like explicitly asked to, and their stock price is at risk if they don't. Like, it literally doesn't make sense. They have to wait for backlash instead of doing something to actually like please the audience that gives them millions and millions of dollars every year. I don't know why, because basic shit like that, like just having the game fucking work, you would think that that should be the bare minimum, right? You would think that they'd be like, oh, we should make sure this game is a functioning game before we release it and sell it to people, because they might be less likely to buy it again if they get a shitty experience after, getting the same thing every year. Like, COD has always been like a consistent experience that just slightly builds off of the last one and gets better every year. I don't know what happened in the last 5 years, but more like the last 8 years, everything just imploded. It's almost as if like all of the developers that did all of the shit that people loved saw where the game like was heading, saw where Activision was heading, and like the people that they were hiring in at the top, and saw like the drive for just numbers and shit by people that don't understand games and shit. So they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm leaving before this shit catches on fire. And then now they have like a bunch of new people that are like, why don't you do what the people did, 5 years ago? Why don't you just make like an amazing game? And then they're like, well, actually, don't worry though, I'll help you. I've hired somebody that knows exactly how to make a great game because they know human psychology and what lights up the dopamine receptors. And, if your dopamine receptors are constantly being stimulated, then you're having fun. And if you're having fun, then it's a good game. That's obviously perfect logic. And I don't get why they try to cheap out on shit that people notice, like textures, features, and animations, and not like skip out on shit like cinematic movie cutscene animations. They could probably just remove the whole campaign, I'm not gonna lie. Not that many people play it. Like, sure, some people would be like, disappointed, but I mean, people still bought Black Ops 4 and it didn't really have a campaign. Even though, I'm not gonna lie though, Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign, but it's not like they put extra budget and time and care into the multiplayer and shit. They were just on a time crunch and were like, yeah, just drop it. We literally couldn't be bothered because they had to rush out some battle royale thing. And then, Blackout ended up turning into Warzone. And for some reason, a lot of like the Blackout gameplay looks a lot smoother and more like a regular shooter game than Warzone does today. I'm not gonna lie though, I never played either, so I'm not sure exactly how they feel in play, but looking at things like Warzone having hit registration issues that they just write off as a bug, when even then something like shooting people should be like down to a science in Call of Duty, like a shooter game that makes trillions of dollars, you know what I mean? Like, it's so confusing how you fuck that up until you remember that like Microsoft has to be like using their money to like not try to make the most profitable, well, try to make like a super profitable slot game, but they're not trying to like have like a long lasting gaming legacy. They're trying to like use casino tactics to try to push out this slop and see the limits of how bad they can make a product. Either that or they're just trying to like blatantly ruin Call of Duty and then probably like come out with the best Halo release ever or some shit. Like why else would Microsoft buy Call of Duty, have the money to like do the same thing forever and just print more money and then actively ruin the game? There has to be a catch to it eventually. Like when Standard Oil, if like anybody that likes history remembers this, when they basically before all the antitrust and monopoly laws, they would like buy gas stations close to other oil companies, like their competitors. They'd buy the one across the street or catty corner to it, or just build one, and they would sell their gas at a loss. Like that specific store would just be losing money, but they had such a control over the market to that they could subsidize the money that they were losing with the money that they were raking in with the other stores. So in total the company was like going up, making a little bit of a profit even though they were selling this oil for literally cheaper than it is to produce, because the other places don't have the infrastructure and the resources to do that. So they're basically forced to either sell oil and then just give away free money by selling it so cheap to compete, or you just have to close down business. And then Standard Oil is going to raise the prices right back up again to account for that, little dip below the red line that they had for selling the oil to get that other company out of business anyway. It's just an investment, and for an investment to work, it doesn't have to, you know, make as much money as possible. You just have to be making more money than you started with the investment, and to be doing better than your competitors. And if you can ruin the competitors too, then all the power to you. Maybe they know if they get too crazy with Call of Duty or some shit, they're gonna be split apart like forcefully by a government. Like the Supreme Court will force the company to sell Activision. It's happened before. And they're like, okay, well, before they try to make us sell Activision, we're gonna completely ruin Call of Duty. And then, Microsoft's product Halo is gonna be the next best thing. It kind of makes sense. Like, it's like they're looking at a field and they're just waiting for it to get to the height that they want before they come in and harvest all of the money, basically. Like, because these people make like millions of dollars, like the CEOs get paid so much money to make smart business decisions. There has to be some catch, because no way that this many people would let the company make so many stupid decisions back to back to back. Like they just know they have so much room to work with how big Call of Duty is, and just like 90% of people like want to go play a shooter game, they'll just buy the newest Call of Duty because it's just that big of a product, you know what I mean? Like they literally could just release the same shit year after year and people would buy it. But they're spending all of this money to do this experimental shit to see how far they can go. Kind of like when big gaming companies, like, not like video games, like gaming companies, like, the people in Vegas owning the casinos, like, when they open up, pay to construct a fucking giant ass casino, this big ass building, and instead they don't pay to like have people come in and play the slot machines and play the tables and bring in money. They instead buy that big ass building, have zero income in it, but they do a bunch of experiments and research on human psychology to see like how they can maximize their profits at their other casinos and shit. And they actually make money back on that casino that they don't have any foot traffic in, anyone bringing in money, because they specifically test to bring in more money at other casinos. Because I mean, they would just sell the land or repurpose the building if they weren't making more money than it costs to actually do all this shit. So you know it works. Like if you just passively have people addicted to this feedback loop and they're going out working, making their paycheck, and then just giving half of your living to you, and then you have thousands of people doing this because they're just so helplessly addicted to the feedback loop, knowing that, I might get something good this time if I just keep going at it because it's happened before, so it might happen again. I'm on a hot streak right now, or oh man, I'm really losing. I should really try to lock in and focus because I'm using up all of my bad luck. So, what's the odds of having shit luck 20 times in a row? I might get something amazing on the 21st time. Or, man, I'm really doing good today. I better, try to keep playing or try to keep spinning the slot machine as much as I can so I can maximize, as good of a time I'm having while I'm having all of this good luck. I don't want my good luck today to go to waste. Like, that's literally what they're doing by dumping money into shit that doesn't equal, like, good reviews, more sales, more actual, like, engagement. Because I don't know about, maybe most people do, but every time I play with my friends in the recent CODs, I usually am done after like 45 minutes or so. I just get pissed off at the game and I quit. Like, some buggy ass menu will happen, or I'll be DC'd from a server one too many times, or some hacker will be lag switching and causing packet bursts, and it's just so frustrating. But I guess if you have this like huge numbers game and the data says like if you have all of these pop-ups every time you get a headshot, you get like 5 medals and shit. Maybe people actually do keep playing longer because they think they're actually doing something. Like people that design algorithms and people that are literal data scientists that are collecting all of these numbers, like, they're pretty smart people. So I'm guessing they're just not throwing money in the garbage can for no reason. And like 10 years down the line, it's going to be super nefarious. Every single game is going to be like this. They're going to discover like the maximized formula on producing slop and everything. Because people just keep playing fucking Black Ops 6. Like, why? It sucks. I, I, I don't understand. Like, literally, aside from all of like the shit that like insults my intelligence, like I'll get over that. The game is just buggy and unfinished, and there's so much wrong with it. It's not even a complete game, and it's still $70, and it's owned by Microsoft, a $1 trillion, gazillion-dollar company, and it's not like to do all of this data, like all of these experiments, and to collect all of this shit about like maximizing the experience and optimization. You don't have to like compromise by making a shitty unfinished game. You can just hire a team for that and then keep the team to make the game and do both. Kind of like Fortnite, how they have like shit. Because, well, I don't know exactly like all of the algorithms and shit that they have, but I know if I don't play the game for a while and I hop on, I suddenly get like a lobby that's filled with 90% bots and I drop like a 20 kill game. But if I like sit there and play all day just queuing in the solos and shit, I'm gonna have like two good games where I like am destroying a bunch of bots in a public lobby, and then I'm gonna get destroyed by actual players, like an actual sweat. Because I want every single player to know what it feels like to get a win and to get a bunch of kills and to feel really good. But realistically, like, if you think about it, just do the math. In a battle royale, only one person can win. So if you have like a bunch of people getting like 8 kills and then, dying in the top 20, you're going to have like 19 players feeling kind of frustrated at the game. So when they do this like fucking data science and all of this algorithm shit to make it so you're like, okay, this time I got it. I was so close this time. I know I got like a 25 kill game the other week. And when they like realize that you're like showing behaviors of being a frustrated player, and like when they realize like you you died 3 times and you got off immediately yesterday, then the next day you get on, you're going to get a really easy game. And that makes perfect sense, but that's personally why I don't really play Fortnite, because it feels like an insult to my intelligence and shit. But at least, they did the bare minimum. Like, the servers are smooth, the weapons shoot straight. Every time I hit somebody, I get damage for it if the server registers it. That used to be an issue. Like, back in like chapter 1, there used to be a bunch of blanks, but they actually fixed that kind of shit. Like, the game just responds to the inputs consistently every single time. So if I hop in like a creative match and I die to like a sweat 10 times in a row, I know it's just because I'm not playing good that game. But if I get on Black Ops 6, I'm not even kidding. This is literally what happened. I got on Black Ops 6 the other day with my friend who just got the game, and we played a 1v1 custom game, but because he was level 1, it would give me like 10 hit markers back to back and boost his damage a little bit, because they're like, oh my god, we can't have a worse player being killed by a better player. We need every single person to have a 1.0 KD because the computer says that that's what makes them most engaged. Or basically every person gets like a 3 KD and feels like that they're a fucking pro player because of all the bots and the assist counting as kills like way too leniently. They literally could have a game that works fine and is fun for people to play, and then also do experiments on like how much they can fuck up the game before people start noticing, because like the numbers are still going up, so they're doing something right. So it's either like they're just not giving a shit about Call of Duty in general and they're just selling this data to other gaming companies so they can implement these mechanics, or they're going to like get as much data as they can and release a new game to actually like compete with their own product, so it's like closer inside of the Microsoft ecosystem. Or maybe they really just did figure it out and they found out how to maximize like all of the whales spending their entire paycheck on the, item shop in Call of Duty, or managed to like maximize the amount of casual players that they can frustrate just enough but also like give them that reward feedback just enough to where they're like, okay, hopefully if I drop a couple of dollars on this game, I won't have to play this game as much because it's so buggy and I'm just trying to get these challenges done. But it's Call of Duty and I've been playing Call of Duty every year, and they're just comfortable and used to it. And in the past couple of years, they've been trying to get you as comfortable and used to like spending a couple of dollars here and there as often as possible, because like you just come home from work and you want to play this game you drop $70 on. And it's like, okay, well, if you're that invested at this point and you've been playing Call of Duty for like half of your life, what's another like $10 on a skin or a bundle or some shit? And it gives you, and now the bundles, instead of just buying skins, now you have to buy a bundle that has challenges that are like, you have to do the challenges in like a certain manner, like within a certain rule set. Then you get the fucking item that you paid for. So you're just paying for more content when those used to just be called challenges. This shit doesn't even make sense, but I don't know why I'm trying to make sense of the game where the double XP weekend doesn't just multiply it by 2. They have a whole algorithm for, what kind of kill you got, what map you're playing on, what your level is and shit. But like, if people can't see like through the mechanics of gotcha games, which are literally just a casino with a few cute anime characters thrown in, they're definitely not going to see through like the mechanics of Call of Duty, because like now you have like actual gameplay. So when you get, pissed off that you lost all your money and just got a bunch of shitty useless skins that you didn't get the one thing that you wanted, it has the advantage over gotcha games where then you could actually go and play a video game that's fun and is rewarding most of the time, and like you could show off your skin in there and like try to get like the play of the game using your new skin or something, or just play the game to forget about all of the money that you wasted spinning skins. But yeah, that's it for today. I spent 30 minutes rambling, so I'm gonna cut it here before it gets out of hand. Like if raccoons are awesome, and stop playing this slot, please, for the love of God.